Yahuwah said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So Yahuwah created man in his own image. In the image of Yahuwah created he him. Male and female created he them. And Yahuwah blessed them. And Yahuwah said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth." And that's what we're going to talk about today. All right, let's get into it. It's not so much the image part that is going to be focused on, but the likeness part. And to be made in his likeness is to be made in his character, nature, so on and so forth. As a matter of fact, when I looked in the Babylonian text on Blue Letter Bible about what that word likeness actually means, it is the Hebrew word damuth, H1823. It means likeness, similitude, in the likeness of, like as, and it's from the word dama, H18119, to be like, resemble, to liken, compare, to imagine, think, to make oneself like. So when he's saying we were made in his likeness, and in his likeness, we are supposed to resemble him, be likened unto him, be compared to him. But again, we're not supposed to be as the Most High, but just like him, because desire to be as the Most High is to go into the mindset of Hasatan and the fallen angels. They wanted to be as the Most High, which we can never be. Praise Yah for that, because my shoulders cannot bear that weight. But anyway, getting back on subject, because I can get off subject and then this will be extremely long. So when it comes to the likeness, the way Yahuwah started talking to me about this particular concept was through my own dealings with him and the revelations and the different things that Ruach HaKodesh has led me to start doing. For instance, something that he had me to do when I was first awakened back in 2019. And I only say 2019 because I don't recall doing this when I was in Christianity, but still. So we'll go back to 2019. Whenever I'm about to go onto a fast, I get a notebook and I start writing down all different types of things that I see that are not like him onto a piece of paper. And during the fast, then I start to see stuff and those things that I write down are usually like those surface level things that we can see. But then during the fast, I start to get a greater revelation of the things that were beyond the surface, because when you're fasting, you are spiritually purging yourself of all that stuff. So now stuff that I couldn't see is starting to come up, and I add that to the list. Now, here's the thing. Yahusha told us the concept of purging. And one of those things is when something comes out, something has to go back in. And if you aren't asking Yahuwah for that to be his Ruach that goes back in, or more of his Ruach, then please understand the kingdom of darkness was happy to put something back in for you. So with that being said, the first part of my list is usually consisting of things that need to be removed. And then the second half of the list is consisting of things that I'm asking Yahuwah to replace those things with. For instance, I am looking at the list that I have right now. So one of those things that I asked him to remove was unbelief. And one of the things that I asked him to replace it with was belief. One of the things that I asked him to remove was chaos. And then one of the things that I asked him to replace it with was calmness, patience, peace, So just to give you guys a hint of what Yahuwah has me doing in my own personal walk. Not saying this is what you need to do, but I am saying that it is helpful, because in the process of doing this over the years, but most recently, I'm talking about within the past few months, most recently, the way I have been seeing him move in my life on behalf of the prayers that he has told me through his Ruach to pray, it has really been blowing my mind about how when you ask him for the things that he wants you to have, very quickly he will give them to you. Now, he doesn't just give them to you. He cultivates them into you. So let's go back to this list. I told you that one of the things that I have on the list of things I want him to take from me is chaos. Whether it be the chaos around me or the chaos within me, take it from me. But what he does is he allows, does not cause, but allows a chaotic situation to arise. And now I have the choice to choose life or choose death. Of course, if I choose chaos again, I'm choosing death. If I choose peace and all the other stuff that comes with Ruach HaKodesh, I'm choosing life because Yahusha is life. I'm choosing the kingdom of Yahuwah and Yahusha at that point. And praise Yah that he gives us multiple chances to choose life. It's not that hit it or quit it type of mentality. But that's just one of the aspects of what Ruach HaKodesh has had me doing. Another thing that he has me doing is asking Yahuwah to make me and my family and some other people, I'm not going to say who they are because they might be listening. Y'all don't need to know what I'm praying for you. But he tells me who to pray this for, but, to make us righteous, eternal beings on this side of Yahusha's return. So before Yahusha gets back, that we become righteous, eternal beings in our mindset, in our hearing, in our sight, in our speech, in our heart posture, and in our behavior, right? Also asking him to make us into a bride without spot, wrinkle, or blemish unto Yahusha. And even more specifically, I have a list of things that he has told me he has called me to do. So I have prayed over that list and asked him to show me how to carry out those functions for his kingdom in a righteous way. How do you want me to carry these things out? Even when it comes to my son, who is my son who is he in your kingdom? Because ultimately he's not my son, he's Yahuwah's son, but who is he in your kingdom? And then I ask Yahuwah, teach me how to raise him up according to who you created him to be, right? So that's just the types of things that Yahuwah has been having, telling me to pray via his Ruach HaKodesh, things of that matter. Another thing that I do is, when I wake up in the morning, now this is something I do every morning when I wake up and every night before I go to bed, I hand him over my wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and then I ask him for his. I ask him to take the works of the flesh from me and give me the fruit of his Ruach. I ask him to take my will and desires and give me his will and desires. I ask him to take my judgment and discernment and give me his judgment and discernment. I even go so far as to ask him to take my eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, give me his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, take my hands and feet, make me his hands and feet, and take my heart and mind and give me his heart and mind. And if Yahuwah were to tell me, you need to pray, you need to add this to that prayer, guess what? I'm going to pray that too. In doing so, I have seen a difference in me. And I know it's not me. I know that's Ruach HaKodesh. And I know that's Yahusha living in and through me. I know that because I'm raggedy. Leah is raggedy. And even Avajahu without Ruach HaKodesh is raggedy. You know what I'm saying? So just gonna put that out there. So with that being said, just seeing how differently I'm handling these situations that are arising around me. Don't always get it right the first time, but get it right the first time more often than I used to. And even going back to the scenario that I said about, if you ask him to remove chaos, and then so he allows a chaotic situation. Even in those situations, it's almost like in the midst of those situations, I'm able to step outside of the situation and really see everything that's going on and then make the choice to either engage or to engage unrighteously or engage righteously. So with that being said, Yahuwah is, because he wants us to be in his likeness, right? And we lost that likeness in the garden when Adam and Hawa listened to another voice tell them what they should do. Once they disobeyed, once they didn't listen to Yahuwah's voice but hearkened unto another voice, the likeness changed. We became in the likeness of the voice that we listened to, which was Hasatan, the serpent, right? So now when Yahuwah wakes us up, We're being made into his likeness again. That's why he said to come to him like a little child, because when you are a child, you ask questions. You ask the why, you ask the how, you ask the what, When you're a little child, you depend on your parents or your guardian to pay the bills, to feed you, to clothe you, to teach you, to get you back and forth to school if you go to school, or to school you at home, whatever it is. You depend on the parents to do that, because it's funny how as children we understand our function, but then we grow up and become adults and we lose that understanding. That's really funny how that works, but that is what we are supposed to do as little children in Yahuwah's household, right? And so when we obey what he says, we are becoming we are being molded into his likeness, right? In keeping with that thought process, I think about different things that Yahusha said, specifically in the book of John, Yehukanan. For instance, my judgments are my father's judgments. I only judge, according to my father's judgment, or I only say what I heard my father say, or I only do what I've seen my father do. So everything, even though Yahusha was given full authority in Yahuwah's kingdom as his son, he still only did what he saw his father do, said what he heard his father say. And then his judgments were even only that what the father has already judged. So like father, like son, right? Now, obviously, the daughters are included in there because we are the children of Yahuwah. But because that is how our king operated when it comes to his father, that is also how we as Yasharal is supposed to operate. So when you take it back to a family aspect, Yahuwah is the father, his son is Yahusha, Yasharal is his bride, right? So let's look at the function of the wife. The major function of the wife is to be the helpmeet to the husband. That was Huah's number one function to Adam, to be the helpmeet. So that means that whatever assignment the husband is sent on, the wife is supposed to assist with carrying out that assignment. Now, there might be different functions that Yahuwah gives to the wife in order to help in that, in her carrying out helping her husband. But ultimately, that is the number one function of the wife. Of course, there's other functions rolled up in there, but we're going to focus on that right now. And the reason why I want to focus on that is because if our husband, our bridegroom, said he only said what he heard his father say, and he only did what he saw his father do, and his judgments are that of his father, that means us too. So when we're obedient to our husband, our bridegroom, we only do and say what we saw him do and say. And our judgments are his judgments. And then his judgments are his father's judgments, and he only doesn't say what he heard his father do and say. So ultimately, by honoring him, which is what he said in John chapter 5, by honoring him, we are also honoring the Father, right? So becoming in his likeness, when we are, and I meant to say this earlier, so let me go ahead and correct myself right now. We are being restored back into his likeness when we are awakened, restored back into his likeness. So, because he created us in his likeness, so we're being restored back into his likeness. And I just wanted to emphasize that because that is way different than him continuing to create us in his likeness. He already created us in his likeness. We just chose to not be like him. So now he's restoring us back into his likeness through his laws, statutes, and commandments. And with that being said, I wanted to share this revelation that Yahuwah gave to me in regards to this particular topic. And the reason why I wanted to add this in is because this is a very good example of how completely unlike Yahuwah we are when we are not allowing Ruach HaKodesh to be the one that operates in and through us. And, when we don't die to ourselves and Mashiach be the one that lives in and through us. So in the assembly that I'm a part of, we have been reading 2 Samuel. Last Shabbat, we were in 2 Samuel chapter 13. That is when Amnon, Dawood's son, grapes his half-sister Tamar, and then Absalom takes it upon himself to unalive Amnon after 2 years, because he basically, after he did what he did to Tamar, he put her away and, basically shamed her. He did not marry her, none of that stuff. But said all that to say, yesterday we were in 2 Samuel 14, and it's talking about the aftermath of what Absalom did. And all last week, Yahauh had been talking to me, but there was one thing that he had said to me either the day before or the day before that. I can't really remember. But he was talking to me. He said, when you're not there to convert, but to teach people. And I can actually elaborate on it, because he has since then added some more things on, which is actually what I just wanted to share with everybody today. But one of the main things that he said to me was, we teach everybody, but Yahuwah knows who he called from the foundation of the earth. Those are the ones that are going to come into his house. So we tell people about his kingdom. We do what we're supposed to in his kingdom so they can actually see, us living out what he told us to do. That's another form of teaching. But we teach people about his kingdom, and those that are meant to come into the house will come into the house. But we're not here to convert people, because, again, it's only a remnant, and Yahuwah knows who he called. So he's not forcing himself on anyone, because he knows who he called, and he'll send us to who he called as well. But again, everybody is supposed to eventually wind up knowing the truth. It's just not everybody's going to come into the house. With that being said, Yahuwah brought me back to 2 Samuel chapter 13, when the actual act happened between Amnon and Tamar. And, a lot of times when we think about someone that does that to someone physically, we are appalled, which we should be. It's a heinous act towards another human being. To me, it's right up there with murder. We know that all sin is equal in Yahuwah's eyes, so it doesn't matter how you sin, it's equal to him. But with that being said, we look at people that do stuff like that and we're like, oh my, how did they do this? And why did they do this? And what was going on in their mind? This, that, and the other. But what Yahuwah said to me is really what I want to talk about. And he was mostly speaking about, a lot of us that came out of Christianity. We know that this is part of the doctrine of Christianity, but there are some people right now that are walking in the truth that still do this. When you try to force your beliefs on another person, you are spiritually graping them. That's what Yahuwah said to me. Think about the same thing that happened in 2 Samuel chapter 13, okay? Amnon knew he had these feelings for his half-sister Tamar. He went to his raggedy cousin Yehonadab, and I said that because it said that Yehonadab was a subtle man. And when you look up that word in, the Babylonian text, I didn't look it up paleo, but in the Babylonian text, it's basically cunning and crafty and all this other stuff. So he went to his cousin that he knew was not righteous. And we all know who in our family is raggedy and who isn't raggedy. You know what I'm saying? So having these feelings, he messed up because he didn't go to Yahuwah about them, or even his father about them. He went to somebody that he already knew was raggedy. So that first and foremost lets you know that he wasn't trying to resolve the situation. He was looking for a way to do what he wanted to do, which he was, given that way because Yehonadab advised him on how he could grape his sister. And so that's what happened. So, I didn't mean to laugh. I don't know why I do that little laugh that I do. It's not because I find stuff funny. It's just something that I do. I don't know. It's part of my personality. So I really hope that I didn't offend anybody with that, especially if you're somebody who has had this happen or know somebody that has had that happen. Please understand, I do not believe that this is a laughing matter. It's just, I don't know why I have these laughs after certain things that I say. So I do want to apologize about that. But yeah, after he did that to his sister, she pleaded with him to, let me go there real quick. Hold on. I'm going to start in verse 15 of chapter 13 of 2 Samuel. Then Amnon hated her exceedingly. This is after he did what he did to her, so that the hatred wherewith he hated her was greater than the love wherewith he had loved her. And Amnon said unto her, Arise, be gone. And she said unto him, There is no cause. This evil is sending me away. This evil in sending me away is greater than the other that you did unto me. But he would not hearken unto her. Then he called his servant that ministered unto him and said, Put now this woman out from me, and bolt the door after her. And she had a garment of diverse colors upon her, for with such robes were the king's daughters that were virgins apparelled. This his servant brought her out, and bolted the door after. And Tamar put ashes on her head, and rent her garment of diverse colors that was on her, and laid her hand on her head, and went on crying. So again, we can establish from the text that, when David's daughters, or Dawood's daughters, that had their V card, and I do have to kind of be careful with what I say on YouTube, unfortunately, but his daughters that had their V card, they had a garment of diverse colors, because she unfortunately no longer had her V card, even though it wasn't by choice. She could no longer wear that garment of diverse colors, because it would be a lie. I mean, you could see that she is a woman of, she's acting righteously. You know what I'm saying? She even tried to plead with him to do the righteous thing with her by marrying her, because that according to the law is what he was supposed to have done at that point, marry her and not have her out here in shame. But that's not what happened. But with that being said, going back to what I was saying earlier about, how when we force our beliefs on other people, we are spiritually graping them. A lot of times when you think about a person that you've seen, or if you've been this person before, when the person doesn't receive what it is that you're saying, a lot of times you get mad at them and then you cast them off, right? Is that not what Amnon just did to his half-sister? It said that the love that the hate that he now had for her exceeded the love that he had for her before he did what he did to her. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times people will come in the illusion of love, but it's not really love, but they're calling it love. They'll come in the illusion of love, saying that they're here because they love you and they don't want to see you burn in the lake of fire, yada, yada, yada. But then when you reject what it is that they're saying, all of a sudden, all that love that you just talked about really manifests into, it turns into what it really was altogether: hate, self-righteousness, and whatever else it was in their heart when they came towards you. You see what I'm saying? Now that mask of love is no longer there. You can see what really was there in the first place, because the word that's used there might be love, but we know that he didn't love his sister if he was thinking about, if he was given the instructions on how he could take advantage of her in that type of nature and then proceeded to carry them out. That's not love. It never was love. It was called love, but it never was love. And that's how it is when people come in the quote unquote name of love, saying they are telling you the quote unquote truth for your own good. But then when you reject it, all of a sudden, again, the mask comes off and you see what was really behind it. And that's what happened to Tamar, but that's also what happens when we try to convert people versus teaching them, because this is not a religion. This is a culture, a nation, a set apart nation nonetheless. And we don't apply the law, statutes and commandments of Yahuwah in a practical manner in the physical realm to our lives. We apply his law, statutes, and commandments in a practical manner spiritually. We are set apart. We do things different. And again, Yahuwah knows who he called from the foundations. Yes, we are teaching everybody, because every day you do what Yahuwah says, it's teaching someone else his law, statutes, commandments, who he is, who his son is, so on and so forth. That is still teaching. But we're not here to force ourselves on other people or force Yahuwah and Yahusha on other people. That's just not what we're here to do. We're not here to be spiritual grapists. So Yahuwah was talking to me about it, and I was like, this man, wow, because it hit home for me, because I used to be that person that, no, you got to do this. And the thing is, I was convinced in my own mind that I was doing it for your own good. But look at the outcome of how Tamar was feeling. Like she had her hands in her head. I mean, her hands on her head. She was crying. She tore her clothes. Like she was left in a horrible state. In a horrible state. How many people have we left in a spiritual horrible state because we tried to force what we know and believe onto them? Yahusha didn't even force himself. When people did not want to know the truth went somewhere else. He did not tarry where he was not wanted. Period. Now, was he the truth everywhere he went? Yep. So did everybody get to know the truth or get to at least see the truth? Yes, everybody got to see the truth. Because all that walking and stuff that he did, he was coming into places, even the religious leaders of his time got to see the truth because he is the truth. But because they didn't want the truth, he didn't force them to have him. He didn't force himself on them. So just wanted to share that because, when Yahuwah puts things in a way that goes, wow, especially when he's putting that mirror in front of your face and really helping you to see this is what you're supposed to be doing. And this is what we're all supposed to be doing. I'm saying me because I can take accountability and say, yep, I used to be that person. Up until very recently. But praise Yah for his Ruach HaKodesh and his teaching in his way. So pray that y'all have an amazing day and much ahabah to you. And until next time, shalom.